Whispers of the Ancients, Episode 2, The Shang Dynasty, Bones, Bronze, and the Will of Heaven Sea. 1600 to 1046 BCE, Ancient China, beneath the ancestral sky, before the Great War, before Confucius wrote his Analects or Laozi drifted into legend. There was a time when kings ruled not by mandate, but by the blood of spirits, the rattle of bones, and the glint of sacred bronze. In the shadowed mists of early China, where the yellow river meanders like a dragon through the cradle of civilization, rose the dynasty of Shang. This was no myth. This was history carved in tortoise shell, poured into bronze cauldrons, and buried with kings whose tombs rivaled those of pharaohs. The Shang did not merely reign. They communed with ancestors, with heaven, with fate itself. Come now, step softly into their bronze-lit halls where kings were shamans, war was ritual, and the future was written in cracks and fire. 1. The awakening of the Yellow River civilization had already begun to stir in the valleys of the Huanghe, China's Yellow River long before the Shang. Villages of the Longshan culture, potters and millet farmers had begun shaping the dawn. But it was the Shang who transformed the murmur of early society into the thunder of dynastic order. By c. 1600 BCE, in the fertile basin of what is now Hunan province, a chieftain named Tang the Victorious rose against the last, cruel king of the Jia. Whether Jia was real or myth, Tang's triumph birthed a new chapter, the Shang Dynasty, China's first confirmed royal line. With Tang's rise came something new: centralized rule, monumental city building, a class of diviners, artisans, and military elites. But most of all, the Shang brought bronze, and with it, the tools of both devotion and domination. 2. The city of Yin, bronze heart of an empire. It was not merely fields and villages that defined the Shang, but cities planned, fortified, and sacred. The most enduring of these was Yin, the last capital of the Shang, near modern-day Anyang. This was no simple town. This was a metropolis of palaces, tombs, temples, and great bronze foundries, where metal sang in fire. In the shadows of high earthen walls, diviners cast lots. Priests made offerings and rulers consulted spirits before battle or harvest. At Yin, kings became god-kings, shamanic rulers who wielded not just authority, but access to the ancestral realm. Here, writing was born in flame and bone, etched into turtle plastrons and ox scapulae, then cracked by heat to receive answers from the spirits. These were the oracle bones, the earliest known form of Chinese writing, a language still decipherable, still pulsing with questions from 3 millennia past. Will the king's toothache cease? Will the child survive? Shall we hunt on the 10th day? Will it rain on the day of sacrifice, each line a window into the thoughts of kings? The rhythms of court, the ache of humanity seeking cosmic order. 3. Bronze as power, bronze as prayer. If stone was the bone of early man, then bronze was the soul of the Shang. More than tool or weapon, bronze was sacred, poured into massive ding cauldrons, cast with dragons, birds, and Taote demons. These vessels were not kitchenware. They were offerings, rituals, symbols of divine legitimacy. Bronze was controlled by the state. Its ores, copper, tin, lead were mined and moved under royal command. To possess, bronze was to possess heaven's favor. The Shang Bronze Age wasn't just technological, it was deeply spiritual. In temple courts, kings poured wine into bronze libation vessels, burned grain, sacrificed animals and sometimes humans to nourish the souls of departed ancestors. For in Shang belief, the dead did not leave. They became powerful spirits capable of blessing or cursing the living, and only the king, through proper rites, could keep their favor. 5. War and chariots, the thunder of Shang might. The Shang were not mere mystics. They were warriors, pragmatic, disciplined, and brutal. They fought often against rebellious vassals, wandering Qiang tribes or southern rivals, to maintain order across their territory. The Shang employed elite warriors, trained from youth and rode into battle atop fearsome chariots. These 3-horse-drawn chariots were swift, allowing archers to unleash volleys while racing across plains. Weapons were forged from bronze, daggers, axes, arrowheads, halberds, each a tool of slaughter and prestige. But the battlefield was not just for conquest. It fed the gods. captives taken in war were often sacrificed, offered in great tomb rituals, where they joined the king's ancestors in death. This was not cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was cosmic order ritual blood for the harmony of the realm. To live in the Shang world was to know that all worship and the divine were threads of the same loom. Certainly, let us continue the descent into the bronze-clad world of the Shang Dynasty, where power flowed through ritual, and death led not to silence, but to eternal participation in the affairs of the living. Point 6. Tombs of kings, palaces beneath the earth. Beneath the surface of the Shang realm, another kingdom flourished, the realm of the dead. To the Shang, a ruler's duty did not end in death. It deepened. Kings, queens, and nobles were buried in vast tombs constructed like subterranean palaces. These tombs were not hollow vaults of loneliness, they were bustling necropolises of bronze, jade, weapons, servants, and sacrifice. The most famous of these is Fu Hao's tomb. She was not only a queen, but a general, a priestess, a wife of King Wuding, and a woman whose legacy speaks across 3,000 years. In her tomb, discovered intact at Anyang, archaeologists unearthed over 700 jade objects, 130 weapons, 500 bone hairpins, 6,800 cowrie shells, and the remains of 16 human sacrifices. Fu Hao had commanded armies in life and in death. She was still a leader, escorted into the afterlife with retainers and the finest goods the empire could muster. These burials tell us a truth often lost in time. Shang women, particularly of noble birth, could wield great power, spiritual, military, and political. 7. Writing the will of heaven. The rise of the Chinese script. Among the most profound legacies of the Shang was something deceptively simple: the birth of writing. Their script, carved into oracle bones, is the oldest known form of Chinese writing. These inscriptions were not just scribbles of priestly whim. They were methodical, formulaic, and meticulous. Each divination followed a structure. 1. Preface, the date and diviner's name. 2. Charge, the king's question or prediction. 3. Crack notation, indicating how the bone cracked. 4. Verification, whether the prediction came true. These early characters, over 1,000 have been identified, formed the ancestor of modern Chinese script. Even today, some words, sun, moon, horse, fish, retain the bones of Shang glyphs. Through these writings, we hear the voices of real people. Will the child born be fortunate? Will the rain fall before the new moon? Has the ancestor accepted the offering? They did not write to glorify kings. They wrote to survive, to ask, to beg, to divine. In these bones, the Shang gave China a gift: the continuity of memory. 8. A network of vassals. The Shang world beyond the capital. The Shang kings ruled from their city capital, but their influence stretched far, over valleys, hills, and distant vassals. Rather than direct governance of every village, they maintained a network of tribute and loyalty. Local lords ruled their domains, but they owed allegiance, bronze, and warriors to the king. In return, they received prestige, weapons, and divine validation. This was a feudal web, held together by ritual, kinship, and fear. But like all webs, it could tear. Rebellions flared. Loyalties shifted. The Shang often launched military expeditions to keep their vassals in line. Still, this decentralized model would echo in later Chinese dynasties, a recurring rhythm of central power versus regional autonomy. 9. The decline of the Shang, cracks in the ritual order. Great empires rarely fall in a single night. They erode like a bone beneath fire. By the reign of King Dixin, the last Shang monarch, signs of decay had begun. Dixin is remembered as a tyrant, lost to luxury and cruelty, indulging in wine pools and meat forests, ignoring the rituals of his ancestors. Whether myth or truth, this tale reveals a deeper anxiety that when a king forgets the ancestors, heaven turns away. The final blow came from the west. A rising power, the Zhou, a semi-nomadic people, began to challenge Shang supremacy. In 1046 BCE, at the Battle of Mai, King Wu of Zhou led a coalition of disgruntled vassals against the Shang. The Shang army, loyal in body but broken in spirit, fell. Dixin retreated to his palace, set it aflame, and perished within. Thus ended the Shang, but not their legacy. 10th legacy of the Shang. Bronze echoes across the centuries. Though their dynasty fell, the Shang left a spiritual skeleton on which all future Chinese civilization would build. Their writing system evolved into the script of Confucius, of emperors, and of poets. Their ancestor worship became central to Chinese religion, philosophy, and family structure. Their rituals formed the blueprint for Zhou ceremony and later imperial rites. Their bronzes remain unmatched in artistry even millennia later. And in the minds of those who came after, the Shang became the golden age of divine kingship, a time when rulers spoke to spirits, when the world obeyed the sacred order, and when the heavens cracked bones to reveal their will.